This is going to be part 2 of the weak-ass flippers for WrestleMania. Django's helping me edit videos, and little Joe is too. Anyway, without further ado, here we go. I was thinking about how I was going to wire this up in the game, and so basically both these go to the flippers, and so one way to do it is just tie them together. So this wire here and the two outputs, just that one there and that one there. Those two wires, which are those two wires, just run them to the flippers as they normally powered. The only problem with that was as soon as you tilted, this side here, the normal state, is going to flip over to that one, and this would already be charged. It would have been back charged from the other side already. So if I put a diode in here, something like that, that would keep this side from charging the other side. And then so this one would just, so I would just attach the end of that, so it would run through this way, and that diode would drop the voltage a little bit, so it'd make it a little bit weaker, which is fine. I'm kind of looking for weak. And then this one would be attached to the flipper, so that it could go either way, but when it first started, it would be mostly drained. In fact, I might be worthwhile putting a tiny little resistor just to ground, just to keep this thing drained in the off state in case this leaked or any kind of stray voltage, getting this thing charged up and when it's in the normal state. So all I'd have to do is just go put a little small resistor between here and that ground there. Yeah, just a small little resistor across that capacitor. So just basically a small resistor right across those leads there. Little tiny one. Well, I say little tiny, a huge resistance, just to bleed that off, keep it empty when it's not being charged. So I may do both of those things. I don't know. Maybe I'll think about it a little bit more. Okay, so I did it. I went ahead and put the big resistor. I ended up putting a 3.3 kilo ohm. I figured if that was a 2.7 to drain this section, I didn't have a 2.7, I had a 3.3 or 2.2. I went 3.3, and I went ahead and put a big diode right there. So the one I just had in my hand earlier that goes from this state to this state, but won't allow the power to go that way. So the way, basically the only way that capacitor gets fed is through that 100 ohm. It can't cheat and get it from the normal state. So when it fires up, it's going to be empty, and it's going to take a second or two or three to charge up before you get kind of a moderate flip, I'm assuming. So this is what I ended up with, kind of a mess. So that's 5 volts. That goes to the tilt bob, which should be grounded when it tilts. That's the 50 volts in. That's what would normally go to the flippers. So I'm going to desolder the wire that goes to the flippers and stick it to here, and the one that goes, this is coming out, so this wire will actually go to the flippers now. So this whole thing is intercepting the flipper 50 volts. And then you got 5 volts going in, and the same ground. Oh, and you got this wire for the ground. So that's the common ground for everything on there. I'm hoping that's not a problem. It might be, but I don't know. We'll find out. All right, for me, it's been several weeks since I've messed with this WrestleMania project. I've got this board and cap is just wired in there, just jumpered in. I don't have the electronics per se. I just have the relay hooked up, and in its natural state is the wrestler is taking a blow to the jaw, so he's kind of like, it's the weakened flipper state. So I've got it just jumpered in line here. I disconnected the 50 volts. It's going through the relay, it's going through the resistors and the cap, and coming back up here and then powering that flipper like it normally would. I've got it in flipper test, and on this game, the flipper test, the flipper actuator and the hold circuit are different tests, so I can't do the hold at the same time. So I'm going to press the, it's from the right flipper. So if I press it, it snaps pretty good. It's not going to hold because it doesn't test the hold in this circuit. unfortunately. And I really don't want to start a game because I have to put all the balls in there, and then all this stuff would be hanging. I've got too many wires loose to hang all this stuff down. I've got it hanging kind of precariously as it is, but I made sure nothing was touching any metal. But it's flipping, and it flips fairly hard. But what it does, if I flip it real, every one of those little deals, I'm pressing the button. And if I do about every 2 seconds, or every second, it flips, but a little weakly. So I guess what I'm seeing is my resistor pack is really not big enough. It's recharging a little too quickly. I'd rather it be like a little more aggressive than that, like every 2 or 3 seconds instead of every second, be able to have a weak flip. And also, I mean, it's hard to say without having a ball on there, but it sounds pretty like almost a normal flip. So I might I talked about putting a small amount of resistance just in line with in this one here that goes back in there, put like a maybe only 1 ohm, because that coil there's probably only maybe a couple of ohms. I don't know. Those flipper coils usually don't have much resistance to them, so even 1 ohm would be a 50% difference. So just a little bit of resistance added to that coil weakens it a lot. But anyway, I'm seeing this resistor pack, which is, I've got 5 20 ohm resistors in series. I think I need a little bit more right there. But anyway, it kind of proves my concept. I need to hook up 5 volts to this, and then this is my trigger. If I just ground that one, that's going to ultimately go to the tilt bob, which will be grounded. Then I can see the rest of this working. I've got to find a safe place to draw 5 volts from. I mean, all these LEDs are 5 volts, but I hate drawing from someplace like that because I don't want to draw too much current and tear up one of these boards. I'd rather take it from a upstream power source, so it's not a distributed power source, and blow some little tiny chip on one of these boards or something, you know, these node boards, and end up buying a new node board because I'm monkeying around having fun. So I may run a wire back up the cabinet get to a little closer. I don't know. Actually, I'm not even sure the 5 volts is created back there. I mean, I think all these, I'm not that familiar with all the node boards. This is kind of somewhat new to me. I know all these node boards, a lot of these make for their own 5 volts, so I may be kind of relegated to taking 5 volts off one of these node boards. Anyway, I'm not going to do that right now. I probably am going to put on my next DigiKey order a pretty big resistor to power this thing. And I was doing this earlier, and I was tick, 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 tick. This thing was getting warm, but not getting hot. And again, it's going to have a chance to cool down between tilt cycles. So I think what I've got there is that would work. It's just not quite aggressive enough, I think. All right, so I added 45 more ohms to that big resistor there. So I've got 165 ohms now. If I hit it, it's still recuperating too quickly. So I'm gonna have to. That's about all the big sand resistors I've got here. I'm gonna have to, yeah, like I said before, order some big ones, really big ones. So I guess I'm done with this for the day. So it's about a week later for me. I got some bigger resistors, so I've got a total of 300 ohms in this big resistor that's basically supplying power to this cap. So it doesn't recharge as quickly. I'm just thinking about this thing as a big battery that's getting charged slowly when you're got punched in the jaw mode and basically tilted. So I've got this thing in test mode, and it's been sitting here. So the first time I hit this button here, it should be fairly snappy. And it is. Hit it again. Well, that was a little weak. If I keep going, you see it barely does anything. 1, 2. That's kind of weaker. If you go every second, you get probably enough just to get the ball up a little bit, but you're just like barely tossing it after a second or two. So that's kind of about where I want it. And this is going to be basically feeding both the flippers, or either one of them. And if you hold it, if I hold this button, you know, it's not going to recharge in the hold position, because the holding circuit is going to be enough to keep this thing drained. So for about 10 seconds until it switches back to the other mode, when this relay switches back here, it's going to be just try to stay alive. Kind of mimicking a wrestler that's done a body slam or a head blow or whatever, you know, punched the jaw. So I still have to, I have not hooked up the 5 volts. This went ahead and labeled these things. So that's my 5 volt. I need to find a safe place to draw 5 volt from here somewhere, or I don't know. I'm gonna have to find a good supply of 5 volts, and then I'm going to hook this up to the tilt. I'm going to just basically disconnect the tilt per se, because I'm going to just hook probably that. I'll just hook that to ground and hook the other side to to this blue wire here. So this will become, when that touches, it's going to ground this tilt wire. So I really don't have too much more to do. I've got to tidy this up and put it on some kind of a platform so that I can mount it. I think I'm going to mount it right here. That's kind of a good spot. But I need to get that. Right now it's just hanging there with jumpers and everything. So, but the next thing I want to do is just get my 5 volts and make sure that this board and everything is working just the way I want. All right, so I'm back at this WrestleMania. It's been about another week or so. I was digging around looking for like a more robust 5 volt source. I found that plug right there. I'm not exactly sure what these are for, if it's like a dollar bill acceptor. I think there's a dollar bill acceptor on this down here on this cabinet board, so I don't know. Anyway, that's what I plugged into. So I've got the 5 volts just kind of jerry-rigged up to here. So if I tilt it, I should hear this thing click and be able to see it. Let me see if I can get both of them in this field of view. Oh, I touched it. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. About 10 seconds it went back. So it's working in the game. I'll do it again. Heard it click. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There it goes. It's about 9-10 seconds. So 9 or 10 seconds of like, holy crap, let's keep the ball alive. So I think all I've got to do now is actually wire it up instead of all these jumper cables. And if this makes you like nervous because like you're going to short out and fry something, yeah, I'm with you. Me too. So I'm going to turn the game off before I actually do that. And I'm kind of torn at the moment here whether I want to put this. I talked about putting it here. I'm actually kind of thinking about maybe sticking it down here and just running my 50 volt wire lines up. I'm kind of inclined to do that actually, now that I think about it. So I'm going to sleep on that a couple days and think about it a little bit more. So it's been a few weeks since I've had a chance to play with this, and this is play, but you know, it's fun. So anyway, I got my board and my cap resistor system. I mounted it to a little wooden plate here. You know, I've got that screwed in there. Made sure to get some screws that weren't going to pierce the play field. I put a connector here. So this has got my 5 volt supply and also the tilt. And I've got this pretty long run here. So this one's going to run down play field, keep it in the heart, kind of zipped up at the harness. So I'm going to take the 5 volt right here, and the tilt's going to go in here, and the tilt will ultimately, I believe I got that grounded, so I'm going to disconnect the wires to the tilt and put the base of this tilt to ground, and then put the other one wire to one side or the other anyway. And then on this other side, I've got these 2 wires coming off, and basically this is the 50 volt flipper power coming in and going out. So before I had it disconnected here and then going back to that. But I've got to basically do that to both sides. So the 50 volts coming in can come from either side, and the other side can just, I'll just put a, I don't know, some, probably heat shrink over it just to cover it up. And then the 50 volts from this board has to go to both of them. And then there's one other, this wire here, I went ahead and put a pin on it. This is the ground for the system. And I'm gonna take ground off this board, this node board here. It's, I forget which pin, but it's one of those. And I'm gonna plug that pin in there. I'm gonna get my ground from that board right there. And so once I do all that, I think I'm gonna be in business. We'll see. I mean, I basically did all that with jumpers and it was working. So now I've got to actually have it wired up kind of semi-permanently and see if this is gonna work now. So that's my plan for this morning here. We'll see if it pans out. So I've got my 5 volt and my tilt tied up there. It's tied up around there. It comes back around here. It's this red and black wire. And the red wire is the 5 volts. I've run it in here and put a little spade connector, plugged it into the 5 volt source. There's also a ground right here. So I took the ground and took it to one side of the tilt. The other tilt connection that was in there, I just screwed it in right there. So anybody who wants to undo this later, if I'm not around to tell them, then that's pretty obvious that goes there. And by the way, this other one goes there. So it's pretty easy to undo. So it gets ground there, and then the tilt switch that goes to this new board is plugged in right there. So when that touches, this board senses the ground, and you got WAF, weak ass flippers. So now the only thing left is to hook up these 3 wires, the ground for the board, and the 50 volts coming, the 50 volts leaving. So it's 11 o'clock and he's ready to go. So we're going to take a break. All right, so I think I'm done. Got that ground right in there. I pulled my 5 volts from what was there, that gray and orange one. It goes to this board, and the 50 volts. The 50 volts coming back comes, I'm sorry, I didn't pull it from that one. I pulled it from this one here, not that one there. So that gray and orange one was on that lug. So that's the 50 volts coming down, and the 50 volts coming back out. It comes out on that red wire, and that's daisy changed over to this one here. And that one I just dead ended. I snipped it flush and then put a heat shrink on there. So I believe I am ready to power this thing up and give it an ultimate. This is kind of a scary smoke test because I've really jerry-rigged things, say the least. I've got a bunch of balls here. I'm gonna throw it in. I'm gonna boot it up right now. This is truly the virgin boot. We'll see. Okay, it's booting. That's good. I'll kind of keep an eye on things down here. I really shouldn't hear anything from this because I think it's in its normal state until it flips over, I think. I need to lower the play field. I don't see any smoke. That's good. Probably gonna have to put some balls in it. Oh, there's one. And takes, so maybe 3 more. 1 more. All righty. Well, major problems. Flippers are not working at all. Well, that sucks. Yeah, that sucks. Huh. Hopefully they're not fried, but they're not working. What you hear clicking are the slingshots at the top. These flippers here are dead. Well, I guess we'll investigate and see what I've done. I found my problem. You know how they say measure once or measure twice, cut once. Well, I mixed these 2 wires here that's 50 volts coming in and out. I wired them up backwards, so I don't have the 50 volts coming in here. So I'm gonna have to rewire, swap this wire and that wire there, and because I don't have 50 volts getting to this, or I don't have 50 volts getting to here, so we can't get up back up the flipper. So I gotta rewire that. I got them just wired them backwards. All right, rewired that backwards to the right way, I think. And boot it up again, and we will see what happens. Throw some balls in there. I think there might be one or two in there still. Throw a 3 in there, see if it'll start a game. That one's 4. Okay. There you go. There's 4 balls. All right, here we go. Okay, well, flippers are working. At least the right flipper's working. Left flipper's working. Okay, so I'm gonna see if I can trap up. I need to put y'all on the stand so I can do this. I still haven't tilted, so I'm gonna get on the stand and do this live. All right, so I'm gonna put the ball right there. I'm gonna tilt it. Let me just manually tilt it. How about that? Oh yeah, I lost power. You make my tilt more sensitive here, just for at least for a while, so I can easily tilt it while I'm messing around with it. It's pretty far down. It's moderately up now. I'm actually tilted right now. There it goes, came back. I'm gonna tilt. Oh, I have no power. Maybe I didn't wait long enough. I think I've got it super tilty. There, it's tilted now. So 1, 2, 3. Get a weak flip. Now it's back. There's tilted. 1, 2, 3. So you can just kind of barely tilt it. Oh, I tried to catch it. I wasted my power. I should have just hit it. So that's working about like I want it to.
Climbing the ladder.
I'm gonna try to tilt it until it's way down here. So once you tilt, you need a couple seconds to recharge. Okay, I should have tilted. I should get. I don't know if I actually tilted because that seemed like a full plunge there, or a full hit. Okay, 1, 2. Yeah, I got a weak hit. Another weak hit. Another weak hit. Another weak. Oh, ran out of weak hits. I lost the ball because it didn't have enough time. So that's basically right where I want it to be. You know, you got to really hit it and hope you get through it. Okay, I'm gonna try this one more time.
Triple H versus Kane.
Okay. Yeah. Wow. There's no tuk-tuk. You get one hit. Don't even think about go cross hitting.
He's climbing the ladder.
Now I'm back. So I survived it. So you got to be real conservative and only hit it at as little as possible. So you've got so your capacitor is recharged by the time you have to hit it, and that takes 2 or 3 seconds. Ooh, and actually, if you hit it when the ball is coming down, it doesn't really have enough power to smack it through. So you have to like really be careful. Made it through. This kind of reminds me a little bit like on Godzilla or some of the games where you drain an outline lane and you like have to shoot the that center shot to like save your ball. Guns N' Roses has the same thing. So it's like you're in a diminished state, and so it's like half of a death. Half the time you're going to die or lose the game. So or lose your ball anyway. So it's tilted, but it's not the end of the game. You might survive it if you play it just right. Maybe a little bit severe. I might put a slightly less resistance in the little resistor that charges up. Or well, I don't know. It's pretty close to where I want it. I really don't want to mess with it anymore. I think I'll leave it here for now. And it is like if you don't tilt, you don't even notice it's a problem. But if you want to tilt, go for it. I'm going to move the tilt way down though, so that it's going to be a shock. It's going to be a shock because most of the people who play around here don't watch this channel, so you know. Unless they do, or somebody tells them they're going to be playing this game, they're going to go, what the hell? What are these weak-ass flippers? Anyway, I hope you liked the video. If you do, hit the like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. Cheers. So I've played a few games. I'm going to make one little tweak. I put a little capacitor right across that, or a resistor right across that capacitor so that thing would bleed off and discharge. So when you start the WAF mode, that it would start discharged. But if I take that resistor off of there, it might be fully charged, might be half charged, whatever it was, since it flipped into the other state. So I'm going to do that, and because sometimes, well, a lot of the times when you go into the WAF mode, you're going to be right there near the in the cabinet. You're going to be near the flipper, so it's kind of nice to at least occasionally be able to whack it right within a second, say, instead of 2 or 3 seconds. So that's going to make this thing a little bit easier. So I've got this WrestleMania on location at Pins and Pines in North Knoxville, and I realized I didn't really have a good play video, so I'm going to record some playing right now. Jane's going to hold the phone, and I'm going to fire this dude up. So just to remind you, so I've got the tilt set moderately tight on this game. First, because you don't tilt out on it, you just lose flipper power. And so basically, I'll do it right now. I'll tilt it. So that first one was moderate, and if I hold it in, it's not flipping. So if I keep going fast, it's not going to flip. It needs about 2 or 3 seconds. Well, it's off now. Now it's back to normal one. Let me tilt it again. Okay, yeah, the first one is ready. Go 2 or 3 seconds. But that's only enough flip to just kind of get the ball up. And if the ball is coming down at it, you better let it bounce, because it's not going to flip it back up. I've realized that. So it's got a weak flip. Now it's back. So I'll go ahead and play it here. So I'm going to go ahead and I'll tilt when it's on its way down here to the flippers. I'll let it come on down. I'll tilt. Okay, so we're tilted now. So I got a weak flip. If I just let it kind of let it hit the flipper first. There, another weak flip. It's probably ready now. Now it's back to normal. So I survived my tilt. Okay, I'm in tilt mode again. Got a weak shot. Another weak shot. You really want to not flip any more than you have to. Back to normal. So it's really a kind of a different condition of playing I kind of got it. There we go. Got a weak flip. Oh, I'm in trouble. Oh, see, I flipped too much and it got me. So I survived 2 out of the 3 or whatever, 3 out of the 4, whatever it was. I'll do it one more here. We're tilted. Okay, I should be probably back to normal. Yeah, I am. Okay, so I survived it again. You just have to kind of play smart. Yeah, see, I tried to hit it when it's coming down at the flipper. You really don't want to do that yet, unless you absolutely have to, because it's not going to get very high, and by the time it gets down again, your capacitor is not going to be charged.
Awesome move.
And for now, we could probably safe.
And the idea of like flipping, like barely hitting it, flipping one to hit it to the other side, can't do it. Just not a possibility. So that's out of the picture. So anyway, I think it's totally cool. And as far as I know, nobody's ever done this in the history of pinball, actually. People have made the flippers get weak. Like, what is it? JFP's dialed in, like when you're fighting a certain battle or whatever. But in terms of tying that into the tilt to use it as a penalty, you know, as far as I know, nobody's ever done it before. Anyway, I think it's a pretty cool idea. And if Stern or one of these new manufacturers wanted to do it, they could do it with code, kind of like JGP did with dialed in. I think it's a cool way to use the tilt and an exercise beyond just ending your ball. So, or in your game in the old school games. Anyway, cheers.